This is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Greetings viewers, I'm Magdalite Naga with the news for this hour. Stay tuned as we explore the top stories from across the continent. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Saturday inaugurated Shabelle Resort in the Somali region, alongside Djibouti's President Ismail Omar Guelleh, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, and other government officials. A flagship project under the Dine for Generations initiative spanning 385 hectares, with 3 restaurants serving up to 400 guests, a dedicated cultural venue, high-tech meeting halls, children's play areas, and shaded walkways across its 15.4-kilometer expanse. Shabelle is designed to foster connections and community. From the 10,000-tree fruit park to the authentic camel park, every feature celebrates Ethiopia's natural and cultural wealth. With 51 completed quays and world-class hospitality facilities, Shabelle marks a milestone in Ethiopia's journey to become one of Africa's top tourist destinations. During the inauguration, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed highlighted the cultural and development significance of Shabelle Resort. The Prime Minister emphasized that the Shabelle Resort is part of Ethiopia's broader Dine for Generations initiatives and represents a key step towards positioning the country as one of the Africa's top tourist destinations. The statement frames Shabelle Resort as a landmark for sustainable tourism, cultural preservation, and national development, reflecting Ethiopia's commitment to leveraging its natural and cultural wealth. This project embodies with the Meddemer spirit, turning Ethiopians' dreams into reality by transforming our abundant and natural and cultural endowments into a shared heritage for the world. Ethiopia is making strategic strides to develop its tourism sector as a key driver of economic growth, cultural preservation, and regional integration. Leveraging its abundant natural landscape, rich cultural heritage, and historical sites, the government has launched flagship initiatives such as the Dine for Generations program and major infrastructure projects like Shabelle Resort. These initiatives focus on sustainable and inclusive tourism, blending modern hospitality with Ethiopia's unique tradition. Investments in resorts, cultural parks, and high-tech facilities aim to attract international visitors, create jobs, and support local communities. Today's entertainment news is now up next. The African Rising Music Conference, ARMC, returns to Constitution Hill, Johannesburg on May 2022 to 23 in 2026, continuing its role as a leading platform connecting African and global music industries through dialogue, innovation, and collaboration. ARMC, a female-led music conference focused on leadership, artists, and executive exchange, has announced its first headline speakers spanning music, technology, media, and culture, with further international artists, executives, and partners to be revealed in the coming month. Confirmed headline speakers include South African artist Align and Simi, along with singer-songwriter Fila Lala, Billboard African Nkosi Kamubo, and Meta's Rofawi Maneta. International headline speakers announced to date include Stephen Hawley from Fraunhofer IDMT in Germany and Alex Jukes from Jukebox PR in the UK. With additional global voices to follow, ARMC 2026 announces a strategic partnership with Recording Industry of South Africa, RISA, representing South Africa's major and independent record labels. The partnership supports ongoing dialogues around rights, sustainability, and long-term industry growth. The 2026 conference is structured around 4 program pillars: live and entertainment, innovation and music, tech, education and employment, and export and building bridges. We are shifting to the Grammy Awards. The Best African Music Performance category is expected to draw significant attention at the 68th Grammy Awards, scheduled for today at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. With artists from across the continent competing in one of the ceremony's most prominent African-focused categories, the Recording Academy has nominated Burna Boy for Love, Davido and Omale for With You, Eddie Kenzo and Mehran Mateen for Hope and Love, Ira Star featuring Wizkid for Game Dat, and Tyla for Push to Start. The short list reflects a broad geographic spread with strong representation from West, East and South Africa. Nigeria leads the category through Burna Boy and Davido Omale collaboration, reinforcing the country's continued influence on the global Afrobeat movement. Ugandan's Eddie Kenzo appears through a cross-border collaboration with Mehran Mateen, highlighting the increasing prominence of East African artists and international partnership. Ira Star collaboration with Wizkid points to sustained cross-generational ties within African pop music, with Tyla's nomination strengthens South Africans' visibility in the category. South Africa's presence at the ceremony is further underscored by Trevor Noah's return as a host. Noah is also nominated in other categories, contributing to the country's profile across both music and spoken word fields. The nominations add to Africans' growing representation at the Grammys, with several of the nominated artists also featured in other global categories. The Best African Music Performance category continues to serve as a key platform for recognizing the continent's diverse musical output on an international stage.
Ethiopia's green legacy initiatives are restoring urban parks and expanding green spaces across our cities. Green spaces protect the environment and strengthen healthy, resilient communities.
Turning to our main news, Djibouti has begun a formal process to develop its future national African intelligence strategy with support from the United Nations system. The Ministry of Digital Economy and Innovation held a nationwide assessment last week, followed by a multi-stakeholder workshop bringing together public institutions, national experts, international partners, young innovators, and representatives from the private sector and civil society. Authorities aim to establish a strategic framework for responsive, inclusive, and ethical AI. The goal is to prepare for emerging applications, guide AI development, and maximize economic and social benefits while safeguarding citizens and protecting the country's digital sovereignty. Discussions highlighted several key priorities, including strengthening local skills, expanding digital infrastructure, improving data governance, fostering innovation, and gradually integrating AI into public policy. Particular attention was also paid to youth employment and closing the digital divide. Input gathered during the process will feed into the final strategy within the aim of producing a technically sound, policy-backed plan that can be implemented in the short and medium term. The strategy aligns with Vision Djibouti 2035, the 2025 to 2030 National Development Plan, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. Morocco signed the 3 agreements in Rabat to reinforce its digital offshoring ecosystem. Authorities concluded the agreement on the sidelines of a meeting focused on renewing the country's national offshoring offer. The partnership aimed to support skills training, improve territorial attractiveness, and encourage the establishment of high-value-added projects. The agreements focus in particular on the rollout of a training incentive designed to align workforce skills with the needs of digital companies. They also provide for the development of tech valleys, offshoring through the creation of specialized economic hubs. These hubs will integrate technological infrastructure, shared services, and dedicated spaces to host both domestic and international investment. The signing of these agreements comes as the global offshoring market undergoes rapid transformation driven by service digitalization, cloud computing, data expansion, and artificial intelligence. In this new environment, traditional destinations now compete with emerging hubs, especially across Africa. Morocco seeks to consolidate its position by promoting a more structured offering that focuses increasingly on digital professions and high-value-added service. Authorities see these positioning as essential to maintaining competitiveness in a shifting global landscape. Offshoring now ranks among the main contributors to Morocco's service exports. By the end of 2024, the sector employed nearly 148,500 people and generated more than 26.2 billion drams, $2.8 billion in export revenue. Moving on to our business headlines. Angola's national oil company, Sonangol, has successfully raised $750 million through its first ever international bond issuance, marking a significant milestone in the company's funding strategy and Angolans' re-engagement with global capital markets. The U.S. dollar-dominated bond issued around January 22, 2026 was structured with a 5-year note maturing on January 29, 2031 with a 2-year non-call period. It carries a fixed coupon of 10% and was priced at 94.4% of par, yielding approximately 11.5% to investors. The bond was targeted at international institutional investors and had a minimum denomination of $200,000. The transaction was arranged as a private placement rather than a broadly syndicated Eurobond, with Standard Chartered Bank acting as a sole arranger and book runner. Despite the relatively high yield reflecting Angola's sovereign risk profile and oil-linked credit exposure, the bond was reported to have performed strongly in the secondary market, with prices rising shortly after issuance. Market participants cited tightening spreads and robust investor demand, a sign of confidence in the credit despite initial pricing debates. The transaction represents a first for Sonangol in the international and domestic markets, expanding its funding toolkit beyond traditional syndicated loans, domestic instruments, and bilateral financing. As Angola's largest company and the backbone of the national economy, Sonangol plays a central role in oil production, exports, and fiscal revenues. Guranle Trust Holding Company, GTCO, listed on the Nigerian exchange group on the London Stock Exchange, completed a 10 billion naira, about $7.2 million capital raise on January 13th. The transaction, done through a private placement, is aimed at strengthening the group's capital at holding a company level in line with prudential rules governing financial holding companies in Nigeria. According to a statement from Nigerian Exchange Limited, NGX, the operation involved the issuance of 125 million new ordinary shares, each with a nominal value of 50 kobo, priced at 80 naira per share. The placement was approved in December 2025 by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, SCEC. The new shares were immediately admitted to trading, increasing GTCO's total outstanding shares. GTCO said the fundraising does not sign any capital weakness at its core banking subsidiary, Granary Trust Bank Limited. The bank already exceeds the minimum capital threshold of 500 billion naira set by the Central Bank of Nigeria for banks holding an international license. The operation follows a strong financial performance by the group. Finally, sport news. The Confederation of African Football CAF has officially locked in its competition calendar for 2026, setting the stage for one of the busiest years in African football history across club, international, youth and Olympic competitions. With major finals, World Cup preparation, African qualifiers and youth tournaments all crammed into a tight schedule, the year offers little to no breathing space for players and club alike. The climax of the club seasons will come in May with the CAF Confederation Cup and CAF Champions League finals scheduled in the quick session. The Confederation Cup final will be played over 2 legs on May 9 and May 16, 2026, while the Champions League final follows almost immediately with the first leg on May 15th and the return leg on May 24. CAF has already confirmed match days 4 and 5 of the group stages for both competitions between January 31st and February 7th, with match day 6 dates to be announced. On the international front, national teams will shift focus early in the year of World Cup ambitions, with the African preliminary qualifying round slated for March 23 to 31. 2026. The official World Cup preparation and international calendar phase then begins on June 1, further compressing the session. Later in the year, attentions will turn to the future as AFCON 2027 qualifiers dominate the September to November window, with rounds 1 to 4 set for September 21 to October 6th and the final 2 rounds scheduled for November 9 to 17th. The CAF Super Cup will round for the Elite Club calendar on October 31st, 2026. Youth and Olympic football will also take center stage, underlining the scale of the 2026 schedule. African qualifiers for the FIFA U17 World Cup in Qatar will run from April 25 to May 15, overlapping with the peak of the club seasons. Meanwhile, preliminary qualifiers for the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games will be staged into phases, September 28 to October 4th and November 9th to 17th, adding further strain to an already conquested calendar. With competitions stocked back-to-back and international windows overlapping domestic and continental communities, 2026 promises relentless action across African football players, coaches and administrators. It will be a year of careful planning and squad management, because once the ball starts rolling, there will be no pause button. Let's take a look at the weather forecast across Africa. That's for the hour. Before I wrap up, let me invite you to watch our program, The Horse Mouth. It is coming up next. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye for now.
Today, we speak with Tebista Girma, an entrepreneur inspired by her Pan-African heritage to build bridges and drive growth in Africa, sharing her insights and advice for making a positive impact from outside the continent. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Grammy Samandida. Stay tuned. Tebista, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really glad to have you here in our studio. And of course, I just would like you to tell us, how you got here. Now we can see that you were, of course, working at a Fortune 500 tech company, and then at this time, you are working or owning, a Bridge 54 company. And really, what inspired, this transition from Fortune 500 to Bridge 54? And if you add how you got here, that would be very good.
Okay, so in general, well, I grew up in Ethiopia until I was grade 12. Until I finished grade 12, I went to Nazareth school, and I moved to the States for undergraduate school, and then I did my master's there as well. I did master's in international peace and conflict resolution. So I've always thought that, diplomacy, AU, and that kind of career, was what I expected that I would be doing. Somehow, some way, that didn't actually happen. And I worked with various companies in the States, and the latest one being a tech company. I was an analyst there. And I knew that the contract would be ending because of due to fundings. And I was also at a point in life where I kind of wanted to do something I'm very passionate about, which happens to be, one, being on the continent, and two, connecting people, culture, and just promoting Pan-Africanism. So as I was thinking, even the name Bridge 54 came because connecting the 54 African countries. So Bridge 54, I know it's still at an early stage, but it's not just like a tour operator or a travel company, but it's a company that is designed to take African culture and package it in a way that it can not only be replicable and we monetize it, but also it can just reach the larger world in a way that other countries and other continents have done. If you see, for example, Korean skincare, K-pop drama, all these Korean stuff, they've used their culture, they packaged it in a way that it attracts tourists, it teaches people about their history, about their culture. So a lot of times African culture is not properly structured in a way that it attracts tourists, or there is a way to even monetize it, and we have so much. So for me, Bridge 54 is a very big vision where I want to take the whole of African culture and obviously step by step, and then allow it in a way where the world can reach it. We also monetize and benefit from it, but also most importantly, the mission is actually to connect the people within the continent, to let people within the continent travel more. A lot of people in Africa, due to maybe visa restriction or flight costs being very expensive, or due to just simply lack of awareness, tend to want to go to Europe, Asia, Dubai, everywhere, but the neighboring countries like Kenya, or even, maybe go to South Africa or Angola. There's so much to see within the continent, but I don't think we're, as Africans, are exposed enough to really know about each other's country, and that prevents us from wanting to travel, connect, invest, collaborate with each other. So the mission is actually also connecting the people in various aspects, and it has to start somewhere. So right now the focus has been between Ethiopia and Ghana. Eventually I hope that we could expand and do similar things with the rest of the continent. But right now a lot of the projects that I've been doing is how can I connect Ethiopia and Ghana culturally, using cultural diplomacy that can eventually lead to investment, that can lead to creative collaboration. So that's what I've been doing so far, and that's how Bridge 54 came about.
Okay, Tubista, of course, as a founder of this Bridge 54, I do believe that you have been, you've been exposed to different countries' visits.
Yes.
And I hope that you have got, very good lessons with implication for Pan-Africanism in general.
Yes.
And in our earlier conversation, of course, you mentioned Ghana very much,
yeah.
and most of these visit experiences that you've had come from Ghana. Mm-hmm. And you've told me very good stories, of course.
Yeah.
And can you tell us, just those you feel to be, so important, so interesting?
Yeah. So I ended up in Ghana in 2013, 2014, European calendar. Like, so 10 plus years ago, a professor of mine had a friend who had a friend that had an NGO, and I was in college. I wanted to do an internship, and I went there, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Like, I felt at home. Right before that, I was also studying abroad in South Africa. So when I was in college and there were a lot of opportunities to study abroad, to do a semester abroad, I used to often prioritize being in the continent. A lot of people would go to like Europe, which I have as well. But my number one priorities have often been going to the continent in any type of African countries. So when I came to Ghana, it was like instantly like feeling at home. The people were so welcoming. In fact, I wasn't even in Accra. I was in a town called Bolgatanga, where even most Ghanaians have not even been to. It was a quiet experience, but it was just even being in that town and everybody saying like, oh, we love Ethiopia. They know a lot about our history. It was such a great experience. After that, I formulated a lot of good friendships. So I used to go back on and off every couple of years. But the past few years, as I was working remotely, I went to stay there a little bit, like for a long period of time, a couple months at a time. And Bridge 54 was born. And then I've started to really, put a lot of my time on that side of the world. And when you even look at our history, Kwame Nkrumah and then Haile Selassie had a great friendship. Our flags are very similar. Even Telet, the Habesha Telet in our traditional dress, and the Kente have similarities. We have a lot of similarities. And I think I would love to be like, the modern day Kwame Nkrumah and Haile Selassie and bring that kind of like friendship back to this countries that used to have strong ties, were part of like the African Union, founders together, and kind of, reestablish that type of relationship and encourage Ghanaians to come visit, invest in Ethiopia, and vice versa. Ethiopians to also visit Ghana, invest. Creatives could be artists to collaborate with Ghanaians, and then Ghanaians to also do it with Ethiopians. So for me, Accra and Ghana in general like feels at home just because of primarily the people. I mean, even statistically, I was recently reading statistics from the Ghana Ministry of Tourism, and it said about, I think, 80 or 90% of people who come to visit Ghana, they say because of the warm and welcoming people. So you can imagine. So it's just a very nice place to go to. And that's because of how much they love Ethiopia, how much they admire Ethiopian, how much desire they have to one day explore Ethiopian. That just instantly made me feel like I was at home. And also our history.
You're a young person, who is doing a big job right here. And especially you're trying to bring about a positive impact in Africa, or regarding, the African people in general. Now, I can see that you've, throughout these years, from your experiences, there are things you can draw regarding how young people or your organization should do the job they are doing. And what do you think, your company should do, or people like you, young people, should do to impact, African people positively?
I think in general, like from obviously, if we're talking from Bridge 54 aspect, it's creating a positive image of Africa and showing that positive image, not only within the continent, but the outside world. Narratives go a long way, and you and I earlier spoke about how, the West and the way that Ethiopia has been usually portrayed about the famine or this wars and everything. We need to step up and then change those narratives and start showcasing all the beauty that we have in this country, the same way in the continent as a whole. So if we want to make impact, I think we need to be in the continent. We need to believe in the continent. And even this is an advice from myself, is like, maybe we need to be a little bit patient with all the, maybe nothing is perfect as we're building. Africa has been through a lot and still going neo-colonialism, and there's a lot of the resources that get extracted, and that's a whole different story. But I think we need to be here. If we don't see the value in our continent and come and try to contribute to it, no, we can't expect other people to do it for us. So for me, coming again, like I said, from corporate America, sometimes when I see things not being so proper and structured, I tend to get frustrated. But I guess resilience comes in this case, and it tests you and see like how far are you going to push and how are you going to change. As I'm trying to grow my team, how am I going to train my team? What kind of like, you know, work discipline and structure am I going to instill in them, so that it is as not only like just promoting Africa, but also building like a healthier work environment and a proper like work ethics is also something I would love to bring along as I build and grow Bridge 54.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is, you know, it entirely depends on the practitioner, like, you know, people yourself, okay? And if you are creative enough, if you are innovative, you see opportunities which others cannot see. And as an outsider, or as a person, you know, who has been to the US in various fields, like, you know, the field of study you've had in America, you just come to Africa and then, you know, you see opportunities. You have, you know, a different lens to the one most Africans might have. Okay? And so that allows you to see the real opportunities in Africa. And so it's just a matter of being able to see it or not. Yeah?
Yes.
And so what opportunities do you see in Africa which you think many African youth hardly see?
I think just in general, I cannot list them all. Africa is just, there's so much untapped market. But even if we just like, maybe to make it more aligned with Bridge 54, if we think about like the creative industry, if we talk about the tourism industry, I feel like there's still so much potential in those industries. And I think a lot of times, these are things that we've just been working on, but slowly, but things are moving fast now, especially in the era of social media. So in a day and age where you can just take a picture of something and maybe it will go viral, and then now you're popular and you start making your money. The opportunities are endless, but I see like a lot of opportunities in the creative industry and the tourism industry, especially even particularly Ethiopia. I feel like we have so much to showcase to the world, and I know the Ministry of Tourism is doing great jobs in actually showcasing Ethiopia to the rest of the world. But for the youth, I think Africa just have a lot of unsolved problems, and obviously businesses thrive when you solve a particular problem for a community that's, you know, that needs solutions. So there's a lot of untapped market. I can't even probably list them all, just but from the things that I work around, I think even the tourism industry has a lot of potential to grow, and people can take advantage of that.
Yeah, Tabista, you just raised, you know, a very interesting point here. Well, I appreciate that, but I am forced, you know, to ask you this question, which is, people in Africa in general, people in the business sector, they know opportunities around them, they know challenges around them, which they can turn to business. And of course, it supports, you know, both themselves and the people in general. And I think this is based on the principle of entrepreneurship. It doesn't have, you know, any problem. When people go into a business, they think of what they benefit out of it. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, many African entrepreneurs, even though they are able to identify challenges which they can turn into opportunities, or business opportunities particularly, they don't have the business. They don't have the finance capacity. And maybe bottleneck policies might be there, which prohibit them from going into it. And relatively, I can say, you know, people in the US, people in Europe, you know, who have, of course, you know, the potential or the capacity, the financial capacity to come in and invest in Africa, can deal with, you know, a lot of challenges which they can turn into opportunities. What advice do you have, you know, for these people?
That's a good question. And again, honestly, for me, maybe sometimes it's like you don't always maybe ask about funding, but maybe you ask for partnerships. As I was doing this, so a couple of the early projects of Bridge 54 was in September, I brought a very popular social media, like a creative company called Black Volta. So when I brought them here, I had to sponsor them. I had to pay their flight. I had to pay for them to shoot. But when I got here, accommodation was like covered by Kuriftu Resort, so I was able to bring a partner. I had to do a creative mixer for them, so a We Venture, they provided their location for me. Someone sponsored and gave me their screens. A lot of my friends and family came through, so it wasn't necessarily the fund that I had in my pocket, but the people and the network that I had around me that were able to come through. A girl who makes the beautiful Akli rug, she was able to gather all the vendors for me that made the event very vibrant and alive. Her name is Yididia. So it's just like tapping into, like, you know, she went to high school with me, so I had to tap into like a high school network. So it's just like reaching out to various people and looking out, you know, not always asking for financial, you know, resources, but also like people. Like, I don't think like you have to wait until you start a particular project to also build your professional network and relationship. So I think you need to always be networking with various people, LinkedIn, and various ways. Build your relationships, and you never know when it will be, you know, advantageous for you. So not in a negative way, but like people will come for you, and also show up for people. Like for me, it's usually like my community of friends, people, and professional network that was, you know, if I don't have any particular funding, nor do I have like my own money to constantly fund it, as it's not necessarily right now generating revenue because I'm still in the marketing stages and early stages. But then like in October, I also did an Ethiopian Night and Accra event, and it was in Accra, and I had a lot of like the cultural industry leaders, the Ministry of Tourism from Ghana. We had Thaddeus from Kuriftu Resorts, who also was in Ghana. He also gave a speech at the event. We had various people come, and at the event, even pulling it together at a Marriott hotel there. It's expensive, but people come together, partners, sponsorships, and things like that. And most recently, when I brought the Reveal team, which I hope that we get to talk separately about it, it was the same thing. The Ministry of Tourism was able to support me. Kuriftu Resorts was able to support me. So in general, it's difficult to understand in Africa. And also maybe not having these type of network is also difficult in its own, but maybe at 10 networking events, connect with people on LinkedIn, just grow your people network, and sometimes it's even stronger and more powerful than having the financial resources.
Tibista Guma, thank you very much for the precious time you gave us and the excellent interview you gave us as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Viewers, thank you very much for watching our program, which ends right here. Next time, we'll come up with similar programs. Until then, goodbye.